Hello, and welcome to the next episode of my Arma 3 screenshot tutorial series. In this episode, we'll be looking into the action side of infantry. Now, I'm going to go ahead and let you know, I do have a few vehicles placed in this. However, they're more like props than anything right now. We will be looking into making the action feel real, not over the top. But, of course, I'm going to be using 40k assets, so that's going to be rather difficult. But the cool thing about this is that we're going to be using assets from the new and upcoming 40k mod Imperial Conquest. I'm going to be placing a link down in the description. Seriously, go check them out. They're doing great work. Again, we've already talked about this being 40k. Well, in comparison to the real world, they use a lot of different tactics than what we would commonly think about. Think Civil War style tactics and World War I mixed in. There's a lot of trenches, a lot of infantry charges, and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's very bloody combat. We also have to think about the utter nonsense when it comes to scale for 40k. Most battles, you think of like 1,000 men, couple thousand men. In 40k, you have to think in the billions of men. Thinking about that and everything that's going on, we're going to be making it feel like a smaller portion of the battlefield, cutting off things that are kind of outside of it. We want to kind of disguise our picture to make it look like it's part of a larger battle. And these can be done in a few ways, which we'll be going over, as well as some of the nice effects that come with Polpox, fire weapon functions, and things like this. The first trick we're going to be going over is using smoke grenades to assist in making our photo look like a smaller portion of a bigger battlefield. These are awesome for blocking the view of certain objects and overall decreasing the area we're working with for our scene. I'm using a vanilla Arma module to create persistent smoke grenades. I made them persistent in the case that we're working on the scenario too long once we've actually started playing and using Zeus, making some small changes. Now they're not going to be disappearing after a short period of time, removing a time constraint that we could have inadvertently placed on ourselves. Polpox is artwork supporter. I will be touting this amazing mod as long as this series goes on. Again, I'll post a link in the description for you to easily find it and download it. His tutorial article, that is also linked with his mod, is amazing for giving quick access to the init codes for using his more commonly used functions. Doesn't help you all the time with all of them, but the more commonly used, like fire weapon function, super easy to find, super easy to use. I will quickly be going over this specific setting and how to use it. I always use this as the unit's argument. It allows me to quickly avoid having to give unique variables to all of the units I have placed, targeting the specific unit whose init the code has been placed in. Weapon index is another important fact. I have a single unit in this scene that it significantly matters for. The Steel Legion officer who is using a las pistol. This will be either a 0 for a rifle or a 1 for a pistol. If you mess this up, that unit will not be firing the correct weapon. Fire ratio is also something that can really mess with the camera when taking the pictures. This is how fast the weapon fires, how many projectiles are going to be on the scene, and stuff like this, making it so that you have to unfreeze time in particular sections to get the units to fire, etc. He recommends always using a sub 1 for this. I use a 0.3 or lower for this argument, basically so I don't have to unpause time as frequently when I'm in the camera mode. It also removes another time constraint, especially when you have something that is very specific later on, when you will see that I use artillery to drop in certain places of the scene. The last thing we're going to talk about is deleting projectiles. I never want to delete them, so I always make this argument false. However, when you're using more modern firearms that don't leave as many tracers, you could probably leave this alone as the default function that he has posted, always delete projectiles. When the projectiles are not deleted, they will fly across the scene until it hits something. If you're intending for a unit to shoot another unit and are using special effects mods such as a blood mod, for instance, you're going to want to let that projectile fly and hit the opposed unit, creating the blood spray or other effect that you're looking for. And when it comes to 40k and the flashlights that the guardsmen use, it's important to let the mod, the firearm, actually fire the projectile, because using the tracers that are provided with Polpox is not going to give you the same effect as the lasers from the specific mod. I'm going to talk really quickly on this fact. You'll notice that if you're using a unit and placing it in water, that a lot of the times the face piece or the sunglasses, gas mask, stuff like that will disappear. There's a way around this, and it's a nifty little trick. If you Control C and then Control V in the spot that you're wanting, you might have to play around a little bit with it to get it in the correct position, but that will eliminate the removal of said object. Copy it, paste it, and it will work. Do not move it in Eden Editor after that point, otherwise that exact object will once again disappear. Alright, one of the last things that we're going to be talking about is dropping artillery inside your scene to fully give it that action feel in a larger battlefield. Now, in terms of dropping the artillery, if you don't have simulation enabled on your units and whatnot, you can drop the artillery directly in the middle of them. But make sure they are unable to receive any damage. These are settings that you can do in the Eden Editor to go ahead and tell it to not take damage. If you allow the damage to be taken and you are using a blood mod or something of that sort, the unit might absolutely explode in gore and ruin the scene, and you'll have to restart.